Hello and welcome to the All About X-Men Comics podcast, where you'll find recaps and reviews of all the most recent X-Men comics, as well as previews for upcoming issues. Please keep in mind this will mean spoilers, and include the use of colorful metaphors. I'm host Scorpio Moon, editor-in-chief of comicbook.com, personality on psn-radio.com, and entertainment journalist extraordinaire. Hosting with me is...
Johnny Alpha, one of the 7 gaggling goobers that make up the Answer to Movie Troll Insanity Roundtable show on PSN, and I'm also an administrator on the Facebook page Cosmic Cube.
Okay, our biggest book of the week is All New X-Factor #1, so we're going to start right there. Actually, Johnny, do you want to do a little bit of an introduction for All New X-Factor? I think you were the resident X-Factor fan for the longest time out of the two of us.
Well, the thing I really liked about it is that they really did go out of their way to put to rest the old X-Factor book, and they even tried to bring that home with this, saying that Madrox sold Dude the name of the company fair and square, which I really kind of liked. And I like that since Madrox has moved on, Peter David has found like the second Madrox, which is Gambit, which I find hilarious because I've always seen the two of them kind of having similar personalities, confliction with authority figures and stuff like that. So I think Gambit being the new Madrox is an amazing idea. He's very suspicious. He's very untrustworthy of anybody that seems powerful because he's from the slums, he's a little ghetto kid orphan. So I really feel for him in this book. But like I said, I just really respect the hell out of Peter David. He's an amazing writer, and I really liked how he tied old X-Factor together with this new X-Factor right at the beginning, just to completely help you understand that, yeah, that old book is completely done. You're not going to see nothing from it. This is the new X-Factor. Jamie Madrox sold it to him.
Polaris and Quicksilver are X-Factor mainstays, right?
Yeah, Polaris definitely. Quicksilver's like in every team. He's almost Wolverine-esque that way. But yeah, he's been an X-Factor a few times.
So I think between them and the title, it kind of carries on X-Factor tradition. But yes, as you said, the story of X-Factor, as has been shepherded by Peter David for almost as long as basically all fans now think of it as, has been told.
Right, yeah, this is the all-new X-Factor, if you couldn't tell by the title. This is actually going to be all-new X-Factor in totality,
Okay, so right off the bat, I can't help but notice the emphasis on magic now in the Marvel U, as the security system for this artifact Gambit wants to steal at the beginning of the book includes a spell. Gambit still makes it easy, but partially because they were doing one of those you-thought-you-were-slick things, as all the real security was already turned off. Seems there was a relation to Tony Stark, who was kind enough to alert Avengers instead of the authorities, and they sent Wolverine to gather up Gambit. Wolverine does one of those Mr. Know-It-All things and calls out Gambit as the leader of the Thieves Guild, and is disappointed that despite their agreement from the end of Gambit's series, he's spending all his time on extracurricular activities and none at the school.
Which is very hypocritical of Wolverine, because Wolverine is the master of running away and doing his own thing, whether it's mischievous or actually almost an evil thing if it suits his needs. So, I really like this book that it's driving home the hypocrisy that is Wolverine in the Marvel Universe.
That's an interesting interpretation. Usually Wolverine is out doing important shit, like being an Avenger. Not stealing stuff that doesn't need to be stolen.
In his solo title, he's always up to doing something. They do flashbacks. When we cover Savage Wolverine, which is probably now a canon story since it's running in this Marvel now, Wolverine isn't Mr. Sparkly Past, so him to try to look down his nose on Gambit for doing what Gambit does it's hypocritical. Wolverine is just this complete two-faced little turd nowadays, man. He thinks that, because he was wearing a sweater and he's teaching a couple kids that now he's fucking Mr. Rogers, and he ain't, and he's never gonna be, so he needs to quit trying to act like he's superior to other people.
Well, they had at the end of Gambit, at the end of his series, Wolverine says to him that, he says out loud, he'd be a hypocrite if he expected Gambit to account for every minute he's not at the school away doing personal shit. 'Cause Wolverine obviously has his fair share of his own that he's always off doing it. But, he tells Gambit he's just glad that he's there when it counts. So, there are two ways you can look at it. Either Gambit has gone from just rarely being around to straight up never being around, or it's just kind of a bad piece of writing there, not being aware of what was going on with the main character right before the issue started.
I always took it that Gambit got bummed out that they canceled Astonishing X-Men, so he just took off after they canceled that book, because that was like the really last time you saw him hanging out as the X-Men.
Either way you want to look at it, the writer, he's just trying to make it like Wolverine is the parent and Gambit is the scolded child. That's what they're trying to convey here. And they kind of make him like Wolverine's Wolverine. And like, he goes off to like, just get drunk about it and get into bar fights, which is pretty cool. And any asshole that says New Orleans deserved Hurricane Katrina for like religious reasons or something like that deserves to be stomped to the ground anyway. And this is where Polaris comes in, staging a bit of an intervention, talking Gambit out of sulking and into her corporate jet, as now she's working for Serval Industries, who recently bought the name X-Factor from Jamie Madrox and want to use it to help people, they say. I don't know who they've been helping so far, but apparently it's the kind of people who say thank you by firing missiles at your corporate jet.
Right, and I mean, like, the guy's whole spiel about Gambit straight up asks him, dude, how do I know that you're not evil? And he tells him, I edited the Harvard Lampoon magazine. It's like, how is that supposed to prove that you're not evil, dude? But whatever, I mean, like...
Yeah, if anything, that might be more proof that you are evil. Like, isn't there that whole skull and crossbones thing or whatever with all those Ivy League kind of schools?
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't trust him. They draw him. He pretty much told him that, like, they call me the new Tony Stark. Anybody that kind of uses that line has been a dirty little bastard in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, watch who you're even comparing your own self to. I mean, Tony Stark has got plenty of demons.
Right.
But yeah, there are great scenes like that. There's a lot of great scenes that I really get a kick out of and I have a lot of fun with. Polaris here, she's minus the crazy and plus the powers, so she can nonchalantly detonate this missile safely away from her plane. So now, the Avengers weren't going to happen for Gambit. Wolverine's X-Men thing isn't working out. Serval seems like an okay fit, either despite of or maybe even because of its shadiness. I mean, come on, like 2 seconds inside the facility, and Gambit can't help but do one of those, oops, I bumped into you, pickpocket routines?
He's, like, hooked, you know what I mean? It's what he... kind of like how he has fun, you know what I mean? It's not his fault. That's how he came up as a kid.
And hey, maybe that's his way of testing security.
Right? And seeing how on the level this is, because honestly, dude, I find Polaris's shift, and I think this is going to play big in the series, very, very alarming, because if you saw her last appearance in X-Factor, she was fucking nuts. She was like blowing up cop cars and stuff like that, and they just kind of like, oh, I'm not like that anymore, and she's working for the shady corporation. There's more at play here with that completely, and I think that's what Quicksilver's actually up to, because you can tell that he's not on the level at all with wanting to join the group. He has ulterior motives, and they made no qualms about like just blatantly showing that in this issue.
Yeah, man, Polaris is an interesting one. I've actually always really liked Polaris, no matter how well or how badly she was written. The character just intrigues me. I think a lot of her craziness, like her losing her shit and the whole thing with Havoc and the wedding, a lot of that goes back to, what's the fucker's face? Chuck Austin? Something like that. Not exactly, I think, a fan favorite when it comes to X-Men writers. So I think some people are pretty willing to just kind of sweep the whole Polaris' crazy thing under the carpet. But Peter David does do a callback to a couple different scenes in history between him and Quicksilver. So I think you've got an interesting point there that, maybe something in Polaris' new state of mind or new point of view has something to do with this company. So I'll be curious to see about that. And I think a lot of the most comic booky aware moments come from those kind of scenes when they discuss their history, or like you mentioned, when Gambit just straight up asked Serval's CEO if they're an evil corporation. Like, I think that was almost like chuckle-worthy right there.
Right.
Their first mission is to rescue a mutant later revealed to be Fatale from a research facility. And Gambit admits that despite his misgivings about the company, he's certainly done worse shit on far less noble motivations, so he's along for the ride, at least to see how this all plays out. So what's up with Serval? Is Quicksilver actually just a spy for the Avengers? There's plenty to ponder going forward, but I'd say Peter David has this thing off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I mean, if it has X and then Factor after it, and Peter David's writing it, you're going to get amazingness, because he's the guy that actually made the name in the 90s. He's the guy that relaunched him, 7 years ago? And he's the guy that's bringing him back with a completely different team. And I'm glad that it's him that's at least launching this series. So bring it on, Pete. I can take it, and I can't wait to read it.
What do you think visually about this book?
It's got a kind of a homey kind of art style. It's got almost an Image Comics kind of art style. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but I wish that the women were drawn a little better, personally. I mean, I really don't care how dudes are drawn in comics, but usually I wish the girls were a bit hotter. But I don't know. I think it's cool. It's not flashy, which a lot of other amazing X-Men titles are fucking trying to rely on. I think Peter David's like, I could write this fucking comic and make it awesome with stick figures, and we don't have that bad of art, but I wish that it had better art. But I'm not gonna. It's not point of contention with me. I can live with this. It's not horrible.
Personally, I love the color scheme. It's a little washed out and probably not for everyone's taste, but I love when a book has a kind of a theme to its coloring, and I think they did a really great job with the laser scene. I mean, even if Wolverine looks a little anime in it, I thought it was just a very cool looking scene. And I mean, actually, I kind of like the way Polaris' suit fits on her.
I'm more like talking about like the way their heads are shaped and stuff. And I'm not a big fan of yellow, but that's me. It doesn't matter, dude. If it's X Factor, I can put up with yellow outfits.
All right then. So, thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Thumbs up, man. Like I've been saying, I've been just drooling to get my hands on this book since I've heard it announced, and buy it because I read it and it even surpassed my expectations. I thought that they would probably just do what they always do with these new relaunch number ones and just show you a bunch of action right off the start, but I like that he's starting with just giving you the story first with a little bit of action at the end. I thought it was a very well paced number one issue, so buy this.
Thumbs up. It's told through a number of story conventions that any fan of the medium will probably instantly recognize, but it's a nice mix of them with a fresh coat of distinct paint. And I'll say buy it. Most fans of mutants should get a kick out of all new X Factor number 1. Next up is Cable and X-Force number 18. So Hope still has nightmares about Bishop, the man who chased her over 1,000 years of half-dead futures, trying to kill her out of some misguided attempt at saving the world. When she wakes up in the middle of the night, she finds Boomer dancing with herself, just having a late-night dance party, and rocking out to something danceable, with Cable's Visions of the Future brain scan tape playing on her TV. God, this comic is so weird. I love it.
Yeah, it's gotten all David Cronenberg with that shit. You know, maybe she like used to work at one of those JW type stores at the mall where they have like just weird poppy music and like fucking weird shit playing on the TV. Maybe it was just like reliving her old mall job or something for her. She's a character, you know?
When Bishop flashed across the screen, Hope sees it as a chance to track him down and fulfill her goal of one day being able to literally kill her boogeyman. Boom is pretty scared of what Cable will do to her if he finds out that she just let her go, and threatens to go tattle on her more or less. But then Hope does one of those, even though we just bonded, I have to knock you out things. As this is going on, the other X-Force team is debating whether erasing Bishop's memories of when he was a depraved, murdering lunatic is actually the same as doing a system restore on his brain and makes him the person he was before. But either way, Hope isn't going to accept that retcon, and once he's out on his own in the open, she has her shot. Cable's coming to try and stop her, because he doesn't want the stain of murder on her conscience, but that of course doesn't preclude killing Bishop himself. I love when characters break bad like this, so honestly, I spent the whole fight rooting for her to kill Bishop, but they totally get punked by Strife, who appears literally the fuck out of nowhere, snags them both, and sticks around just long enough to taunt Cable before disappearing with them.
That's what all good villains do, so, like, I was happy that Strife was able to do that. He was able to just give them, like, I got him,
And he even does that taunt where it's like, of course I don't have to kill you or them now. That would be too easy. I'm just bullshitting the fuck around with you because I can. And that's, of course, a perfect time for the other X-Force team to show up. Cable demands to know why they didn't tell him Bishop was back, and they demand to know where Bishop is, and that standoff is our cliffhanger.
Yeah, man, and I do not think Cable is in a nice spot because Psylocke looked pissed. She was gonna fuck Nate Summers up, man.
Yeah, man, him versus their whole team, that's not very fair.
Well, him in his present status versus her, he's done, dude. Especially since she's all mad because she only lasted 20 days before she had to kill a man.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's already kill MSing, and Cable, he doesn't have all his powers. That's right, he can only see the future now.
And then Storm, she's all system mad because fucking Bishop got all on her and she was like ready to fuck him up in the clubhouse and stuff. So, and I think Puck will just sit there and watch the fight. He seems like that kind of little midget Canadian that would do that. But honestly, like if you could just sit there and watch Storm and Psylocke, I'd probably just sit there and drink a beer too. You know, it's like, get up girls, woo, whoop his ass.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see that being a thing to do. I mean, I sure as hell would enjoy it. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hoping to enjoy out of the book to begin with. But Puck seemed pretty ready to go. But I mean, look, Cable's no slouch, man. I mean, even if he had zero powers, like, he's still got a robotic arm, he's still a weapons expert, like, he's still, like, lived through an entire lifetime of war, and I love how he's passed that down to Hope. I mean, her power set, I mean, I don't want to say it's totally passive, but I mean, it's very dependent on the situation. So, I mean, she, like, literally, like, has, like, an RPG, like, trying to take out Bishop.
She was gangster, too, man. She was not messing around. She straight up shot a rocket at him first, and then came with the small arms to finish him off. I was just like, damn, this little girl knows how to fucking kill a bro.
Yeah, man. Hope straddling Bishop with a gun inside his face was probably one of my favorite scenes in comic books this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that they actually are making her do not intelligent, but things that you can actually understand somebody really doing, because the way she was written during, like, AVX and a couple other things that really kind of had her front and center, they kind of write her almost as stupid as Bishop, which I'm glad that they're getting away from him. This is actually something, a motivation that I can actually understand. Somebody that was being hunted for years and years by this person. He's basically Jason Voorhees in real life to this little girl. So she got back real time, watched some Friday the 13th with Boomer probably, and saw that in those movies, a hot teenage girl always kills Voorhees. So she's just like, I'm gonna get that motherfucker. Just like, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how I saw this issue playing out. Of course, like I said, it's all going to play out as a misunderstanding, and they're going to work together to defeat Strife. And I bet you that there's going to be like some kind of fist bump. We understand each other. We both fuck things up in the future kind of thing between them. But I really hope Bishop gets the shit kicked out of him a bit more this arc.
Man, I've got to agree with you about Hope, especially everything you just said. I mean, there were times where I just thought Hope was going to be one of the most annoying characters in comic books, and I was like just not feeling that character. I mean, I was like, at best, this is going to be like some kind of like Jean Grey wannabe ripoff thing, isn't it? But thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
I'm going to go thumbs up. I love both these books, and I think that they're melding together very well. I really like X-Force, just period. And I'm going to say buy it, because this is going to be a very awesome, impactful ending for both these books. It's going to lead up to the next title, X-Force, so you probably don't want to miss this. It's going to be a fun, hard-hitting event.
Thumbs up here, too, man. They're turning Hope into one of my favorite characters, and anytime an issue gives you a favorite anything, that's an automatic thumbs up in my book. And I'll also say buy it. I don't think I could wait for the trade. I wouldn't want to be just standing around missing shit while 2 X-Force books were ending. Okay, so next up is Deadpool number 22. Deadpool manages to smash the LMD sent to kill him, but then every assassin in town comes after him, and he's on the run along with Preston in his head and one of the good S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Coulson swoops in for the assist, but Gorman's been doing more than selling guns. He's also full-on defected to a terrorist organization that outguns this little group. They go for backup, but Deadpool gladly volunteers to keep the bad guys busy till they get back. And by keep them busy, I mean by killing as many of them as possible. Johnny Alpha, what are some of your impressions of Deadpool number 22?
I had a lot of fun with that. I liked a lot of the cameos. I thought it was cool Paladin showed up even though he got punked. And the Batroc the Leaper thing was hilarious. This is 2 Batroc, boom, right in the balls. If I see you a third time, I'm going to have to kill you. and then, like, yeah, when they're in the flying car, they fly by Crossbones in the balloon, and he's hallucinating. That was just a hysterical scene. And I don't know, I'm getting a kind of a kick out of this, what they're doing with the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. They're really trying to show a little bit of levity with it, because every other book that's involving S.H.I.E.L.D. is just like, it's so important, like how Wolverine is this week, and a couple of the other things we've read that involve S.H.I.E.L.D. It's just like, everything, is just so massive. And this is, there's an evil S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that's selling weapons to evil terrorist group, but he also finds time to fucking hack Coulson's computer, and and like that scene was just hysterical. It's a mixed bag with this book. It's always going to be, because in as much as we like the good, the bad, and the ugly, I don't think most arcs are going to be that completely cut and dry with Wade. I think a lot are going to have, serious, silly, serious, silly, serious, silly, and we got to get kind of used to that and not expect good, the bad, and the ugly every time.
If every issue of Deadpool was like the good, the bad, and the ugly, I mean, it would easily be like one of my favorite new characters, one of my favorite comics. I think there's a lot of good you can do with the character, especially when you take it way, way, way more seriously. But we have to face the fact that that's just not going to happen. I think this might be a perfect Deadpool comic. I mean, it's got cartoon violence, but it's still violence. It's wise-ass Deadpool. I used to kind of hate Deadpool because I thought he was a cartoon and everything he said was some sarcastic, snarky quip. But now I kind of love Deadpool because he's cartoonish and everything is a snarky-ass joke. Like, I love that he can have his head in an oven and be like, oh my god, the pizza in this oven has anchovies?
Yeah, his head's on fire and he's worried about the anchovies. So yeah, that's why it's good to have the two writers that they have. They got Gary Dugan, who's quasi-serious sci-fi writer, and they got the Fichon guy who's a stand-up comedian, which I find really interesting that they're actually trying to write the book how this guy's brain works. And I have to agree with you, this is probably the best Deadpool solo series aside from the Deadpool Max by David Lapham and Kyle Baker. That was way, way different and way more insane. But this is probably, like you said, the best Deadpool series you could probably read, in my opinion.
I think your point about Deadpool being a mixed bag is also really spot on, especially because of the humor. And even the thing with humor is it's so subjective more often than not. I think it's more subjective than even art or like entertainment in general themselves. I guess the thing with this issue, though, there's a great combination of cast here with him and these 3 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
And I really like the toy store scene. I mean, it's hard. I mean, like, I just had a kick out of it. I got a lot of laughs, but at the same time, I almost got a hollow feeling out of this issue, too. I mean, I don't want to sell it like it's a bad thing, but there's not much going on in it either. You know what I mean? It's a lot of action and a lot of jokes.
Before we wrap up, I've got to drop one more highlight on you. When the good S.H.I.E.L.D. agent calls Deadpool to inform him that the LMD is going to double-cross him, and he kind of does one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, play it off like it's a wrong call, or it's, it's about something else or something like that. But kind of not really. So Deadpool, he just kind of like is talking about it on the phone like, why sure, I can tell you the serial number on my gun, just let me pull it out.
Yeah. But Wade's a character, man.
Yeah, that shit was just too clever and too funny. And right off the bat, that was one of the first things in the issue. So that's what gave it that great momentum that carried it through for me. I mean, I guess most people's enjoyment of a Deadpool book is going to depend on whether the humor works for them or not. But as far as this issue, thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Thumbs up, like I said, just on the cameos alone, the Batroc the Leaper thing and Paladin, I'm sold. But I'm going to go ahead and just say, skip this for now, get the trade paperback for it. Deadpool's probably one of the books that I would always kind of recommend in trade.
I'll go thumbs up. I really don't think Deadpool gets any better than this. And I'll go buy it. I think it's a fun read. It's got one of those diving into action cliffhangers. So yeah, of course you can't wait to read the next, but I don't think it's one of those really irritating kind of cliffhangers either. Our next book up is Inhumanity Awakening number 2, the end of the little 2-shot thing they're doing here. Now I thought the brother was going to turn out to be a villain. And I guess he was a bit, but I mean really he was just trying to get some revenge on those guys who assaulted his sister. He collapses their building, but doesn't kill them. So when the team tracks him down, they go all after-school special on him too, like they did with the sister. They fix up the situation, and the brother and sister go on to join the schools. It's kind of cool how they highlight all the official different schools, like, throughout the world. Like, you got the Wakanda one, the Latveria one, the one in Asia, Jean Grey. I guess Cyclops' school doesn't count because he's like a renegade. But the brother ends up going to Latveria, and the sister is kind of bouncing around for now. The two people tweeting from the first issue even end up hooking up, so it's all kind of happy endings.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they really kind of gave you this whole feeling that the brother's going to go all insano and, like, they were going to have to smoke him. I thought this was going to actually have a more kind of sadder ending to it, and I was kind of happy that they were able to, flush it out like that. And I kind of got the feeling that this book is really they're trying to launch the characters Stryker and Finesse into bigger roles, you know what I mean? Because I've never really seen them around too much, but it really kind of showed you who they were. It gave you their origin stories and everything, so I really think that maybe these kids are going to be like up-and-comers in Avengers books or something. I kind of got that kind of feeling from it as well.
If anything, I think the two characters that I want to see more of after reading this book are actually Fiona and Pixie.
Yeah, man. I mean, Pixie was actually getting popular there for a while during Manifest Destiny and stuff, all that stuff after Messiah Complex, and then she just kind of faded away again. And I was like, what, man? I liked all those Academy X characters like Sand and Surge and Pixie and Armor. I want to see more of them around. I want to see them more than I want to see the Archies and Quentin Quire and Shark Girl. That's for damn sure. I read that Academy X New X-Men book all the way through. I really enjoyed that. I like Yost and Kyle's writing.
So for this issue, do you want to go thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it?
I'm going to go thumbs up. I really enjoyed this little side book to this event. I think Matt Kent just proved that he's another indie guy that can just step up and write Marvel characters the way that they should be. I love that it did the Archies the way that they are never done. And I got to say, buy it because, this is a great issue too. It's a nice little two-shot that you could go ahead and read. And, I think you could read this and completely understand the entire event. I don't think after reading this I actually have to read all of Inhumanity if I don't want to.
You read this and you basically know what happened. I'll go thumbs up. It's really kind of over before it begins. It's almost more like an epilogue to the first issue, and they probably could have just combined these both into one big issue. But still thumbs up for how they portray all of this in a way that makes it all seem very plausible. And once again, not realistic, but you say, yeah. If this was going to happen in, real life or whatever, it'd probably kind of go down this way. I'll say you can probably safely skip it, though, if you read the first issue, because you pretty much get the point from that. I think it made all the impact it really needed to there. But personally, I'm glad I bought it, and it's a nice wrap-up. I enjoyed reading it. Okay, so I might subtitle this episode of the All About X-Men Comics podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Wolverine, because as far as I'm concerned, that basically covers up most of the really good issues this week. Johnny Apple, we'll see if you agree or disagree, but our next book up is Phantom X number 4. Now, here's what writer Andrew Hope had to say early on about this character and this series. This is a quote from an interview. What attracted me to the character wasn't so much what had gone before, but where I could take him. Getting under the mask and seeing who this person was, why he did what he did. It opened my mind up to the possibilities of where he could go, not simply be a continuance of what other creators had done with him. What? Huh? Where was any of that in the series?
For real. I had fun with this. It was a nice little jaunt, but dude, you did an episode of Scooby-Doo with Phantom X, and that was about it. You didn't take him anywhere. He does take his mask off at the end of this, but you don't see who he is. So, you know what I mean? It was just, oh, God. You shouldn't have read that quote. Now I am probably going to agree with you.
And that's only one. I actually clipped a couple quotes. I clipped 4 quotes, and I think I used one more. But that was the main one. The other two, I was kind of they kind of repeat the same thing. But remember how I was all worried that maybe this wasn't the right choice for who should explore Phantom X? Who should get to do backstory on him or open up his future? And it turns out I had nothing to worry about because he didn't do any of that anyway.
Right. And was it just me or was this a very non-climactic last issue?
Yeah, I would say, what's the word, anticlimactic?
Yeah, anticlimactic. The big, scary government agent hulks out a little bit, and he's gonna try to blow another country up. And Eva hacks the system, which does. As soon as you found out that she's made off the same software as this equipment, you pretty much knew that was gonna happen after episode 3. And then the guy hulks out, and Phantom X rips his arm off, and then he gets machine gunned by the Eva ship. It's just that's it. No Batroc the Leaper, at least.
Where the fuck was Batroc in this issue? I'm so disappointed.
Honestly, I'd have been happy if Batroc showed up. There would have been something I didn't see coming. Something that wasn't just sadly cliche, and just rushed. Honestly, we were talking about how disappointing the end of Longshot was last episode, but I found this way worse. At least Longshot, I knew it was going to be silly, you know what I mean? I knew the book was going to be mindless. This, I thought that, it's a Max book, and it started off so well, but it's just kind of gotten loopier and loopier and more eccentric, and not in a kind of way that I really enjoy either. So I gotta say, I am a tad bit disappointed with the Phantom X Max series.
We had kept comparing Longshot and Phantom X a couple of times. Between their 2 series. And I guess they've got more in common than we really thought. Let's take you through my interpretation of the summary of this issue. So the bad guy's powers have driven him crazy, and he wants to use the space laser to kill and torture people all over the planet. This was his goal all along. This was always his goal. He claims it was a suicide mission, and he expects to be dead soon either way, but then gloats that he's safe because no government would attack and destroy the facility because it's too important, being needed to someday blow up this asteroid that's headed our way that will kill all life on Earth. So which is it? Is he expecting this to be a suicide mission because they're going to retaliate, or is he safe because they would never blow up this facility? That was one of my first major nitpicks, just like in this plot itself. But I mean, either way, yeah, whatever. It's not important. Either way, Eva hacks the facility, like you mentioned, and the little creature from the first issue returns in the form of its offspring, still a powerful weapon on its own right. So between those two things, they beat the bad guy, save the day. Before he dies, he taunts Phantom X about memories he saw in his head when they were connected to his alien thingy. And along the way, there are some fourth wall jokes in the issue. At the end, they even hint at a romance between Phantom X and the female agent. And then he builds Eva a cyborg body. And let me clear this one up with another quote. Some of this weirdness about Eva, let's put that to rest. I thought a lot of the shit with her made no sense, especially in the last issue, with her creator or whatever being this guy, and like just some of the ways that she was being presented in this series. I went back to the promo quotes again and dug up this gem, once again from the writer. My Eva is considerably different from the other versions of her that have come before. My version is a hyper-intelligent AI character. So please take that to mean I changed a bunch of shit about this character. She's not his nervous system, it's not symbiotic, she's just a voice in the ship, so that's why she's a hologram, has no corporeal form, and can have this backstory with the scientist. She's just an AI. So it makes a lot more sense to me now, going back and looking at that, and seeing how completely different his interpretation of these characters was going to be. I mean, I wish I had realized that before, or had gotten into my head before I started this series, how different it was going to be. It would have made a lot more sense to me. But at the end of the day, yes, this is a Max series, so remember that canon-wise, it technically doesn't count anyway.
Right. So that's why I was telling you not to worry about this anyways, because if it sucks, they'll just write it off as a Max book, you know?
You did say that. I like the Adult Swim aspect of this, even if they took it too far. I think you're totally right on that one, Johnny. It's kind of like when you take a tab of acid. Like, once it starts kicking in for, like, the first hour or two, like, it kind of, like, enhances your mind a little bit, and, like, you're seeing everything so much differently. But by the time you're hardcore tripping, like, everything is just melted to shit. Like, that's kind of what happened to this book. Like, honestly, I mean, I think it's done nothing but kind of sink since the first issue.
Yeah, I mean, like, the bad guy ends up killing more bad guys than the good guy in it. There's actually no action whatsoever. It's like he gets there and he's knocked out, and, like, he's just 2 issues basically with his brain hanging out of his head, and then, you know, at the very end, like, there's this kind of very non-climactic, very, I don't know, 1960s cheap B-movie ending to it, and I'm like, I like B-movies and stuff like that, but when you're taking a character that, you know, hasn't been played with yet, and that's the best you could come up with the first arc that you're going to try to launch at doing some kind of progressive thing with the character, it doesn't bode well, man. You know what I mean? I'm not just one of them guys that wants to see flashy, but if you're going to be doing a book that's about a flashy character that's programs up from Wolverine, you got to show me something, man. Not that this guy gets his ass kicked and has to have the villain kill all the other villains for him. You know, if he feels that he needs to, he will bust your ass a cap.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, all in all, I found this miniseries to be very cool, but, you'll see my final thoughts in the next segment of thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm still going to recommend the trade paperback. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's just, I kind of expected more. You know what I mean? It should have something to it. It should have some teeth. But no, he kind of gets dicked around by this dork, you know what I mean, with brain powers, and it kind of didn't do anything, you know what I mean? Nothing really kind of happened or came out of this event, or this book, at all.
So I'm guessing that's a thumbs down.
For this issue.
I'm going to go with thumbs down. It's really obvious to me that this script went through too many hands. The basic story is there. It's cool and it works for Phantom X. But it ended up too much of a mess. And I'm also going to say skip it. If they wanted to just test the waters for a Phantom X series, I mean, yeah, okay, that's fine, do that. But I think Phantom X deserves better than to get an out-of-continuity mini that only teases revelations about a version of the character that's completely warped anyway. So our next book is A plus X number 16. I thought this issue was supposed to be about Brew and Iron Man. I guess there was a bit of a mix-up in the solicits. Boy, is that sure shocking. Not that it matters for this stupid comic anyway.
Right. We ended up getting one of the worst things I've ever read. Instead, I wanted Iron Man and Brew by the time I was done with the Spider-Man Psylocke. Stupid fucking segment, dude. I mean, did that have a point whatsoever? I mean, like, why would anybody ever publish that? That's like something a fan would have drawn and, like, thrown away because it was ridiculous and it made no sense.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, honestly, I didn't even bother to read that snarky little intro they do. I honestly just don't anymore. And then, yeah, the first few pages have old-school Spider-Man swing through a fight between Psylocke and some other ninjas before a grenade nearly kills her and the X-Men step in. It's completely pointless, and also not really any good.
Right, I mean, there was one thing where Spider-Man says, I didn't even know you were a real girl. I thought the boy X-Men made you like the girl from Weird Science, but that didn't make it worth reading. That didn't make it good, but there was one line that kind of, like, gave me a grin. It was the stupidest thing I've ever read. I mean, like, why did they publish that? It's nonsense.
And I thought just reprinting Origins was a waste of paper, but that was pretty fucking bad. The Psych and Cap story is readable. Psych, Cap, Ant-Man, Emma, and the Cuckoos track the Skrull Cadre K to their ranch. After another fight, they learn that these outcast nomad mutant Skrulls are just trying to live the American dream. If you're familiar with Morrison and Miller's Skrull Kill Crew, you'll have a better idea of what's going on here. But because we're apparently nostalgic for the time when Funny Pages was a more apt description of comic books, a lot of the story is reference to Fantastic Four stuff involving Skrull spies and cows. Where yes, Skrulls became cows, and the Kill Crew came about from humans mutated by eating them. Cadre K is here tending to their flock, finding any biological descendants of these Skrull cows, and removing them from the food supply and to their ranch. So after all that, it's no harm, no foul, basically. Which is good to me, because if Cadre K went bad, I'd be a little pissed that we still had to keep sullying the name of anything tied to Xavier. At the end of the issue, the life model decoy shield bot starts freaking out, and we discover that Psych and Cap came back from Latveria covered in Doom bot and nanites. Kind of reminds me of the time that I got crabs from a Latverian prostitute.
Yeah, man, you have only yourself to blame, brother. They'll eat you alive. You do not shag a dirty Latvian. You gotta go upscale at least if you're gonna pay for it over there.
Yeah, man, that was just awful decision on my part, but even worse on theirs, because these Doom bot nanites have spied on everything that's happened since they've left Latveria. So now Dr. Doom is going to re-enter this story as the new threat. I don't think there's really any momentum to the story this issue, but I do like the twist.
With the twist, yeah, it was Shyamalan-y, you know what I mean? It was better than The Village, I'll give you that. I mean, and I had fun with it, you know, I kind of really liked the Skrulls in the cowboy outfits. I was just like, it's like a really weird look, but it works, you know?
At least we have the same highlight, because for me it was when they make fun of that telepaths get nosebleeds trope, where one of the Cuckoos is bragging that she didn't get one, but then, you know, she has like an ear bleed instead.
Yeah, here's just gushing. I had to be Celeste. She's like always the I'm better one.
So thumbs up or thumbs down, and buy it or skip it.
Well, I'm going back to my normal A+X stance because of the horrible Psylocke dies in front of Spider-Man thing, and thumbs down. This was just awful, and skip it maybe when it's all said and done. Get the Cap and Psych trade paperback, but I don't even know that. I'm still keeping that stance, so that's how I roll.
Thumbs down here, too. Thumbs down for an all-around, pretty unentertaining issue. And I'll go with skip it. Even with the parts that I did enjoy, the Psych Cap story doesn't really have any steam. But if they collect it in trade, I still think that'll probably be worth getting. But we'll see how it ends with Doom. Okay, so, I'm going to have to literally spike the punch a little bit early this week, because our next book up is Wolverine number 13. Nothing happens in Wolverine number 13. Seriously, if you read the last issue, or any issue in the Killable arc, just imagine that after that everyone disappeared and went away. The end.
Right? I mean, like, I was making fun of Fanatics for being anticlimactic, but this beats the shit out of that. I mean, honestly, did they really think it was poignant? Sabretooth like, oh, I'm not gonna kill you. One day I might sneak up on you when you're 70 and kill you in an old folks' home. Here's your sword.
Maybe he doesn't try to kill him because he not so secretly loves Wolverine and is clinging to the hope that he'll join forces someday. God, I wish they had just left Sabretooth dead.
Right? Instead of bringing back Triple H Tooth.
The Triple H Tooth. And is this what he sold the whole gang on anyway? Like, was this Sabretooth's plan, like, for Mystique and crappy fake-ass Silver Samurai doing nothing? Like, did he, like, pull the group together and say, okay, we're going to torment Wolverine, bring him to his breaking point, and then just leave? I'm sure that's going to work out for us in the long run.
It was just so fucking stupid. Dude, I mean... And then you got the whole side story with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the infected people. It's the same way. The last second, the chick's able to pull the virus out of everything, and it gets sucked into the one cop, or the one security guard, and she's trying to tell Wolverine, let us come in you and we'll fix you, and then when we're all better, we're going to try to take over the world again, but, you know, you'll be okay too. And he's just like, no, I want to be a martyr, you know? And it was like, I wish it would have, like, at least ended like Passions of the Christ, you know what I mean? Like, I wish he would have died and then came back, like, tough again, and one last little fucking regenerative thing from his healing factor, you know? Something at least cool, but no, he kind of just lays there like a gimp, and then he comes back to the school, and Storm's like, hey, Wolverine, what happened to you? Wolverine's dead. He's dead. He's down. It's like, you're a bitch, fool. Bam, dude. This writer should get kicked off this book. He's doing to Wolverine what Dan Slott did to Spider-Man. He is a menace. I don't care who thinks Cornell's a good writer, man. He needs to get his ass kicked off this title. I'm not even a Wolverine fan, and that's how I feel. And he was, like, stepping on his head and all kinds of stuff. And, I mean, like, it's not like this is the first time that they brought Wolverine to the brink of death's door. I wish that they'd have took it that extra mile and made this, like, something that actually kind of, like, broke a wall instead of just something that was flaccid and pathetic.
After that, Kitty aggravatingly buys into all of Sabretooth's bullshit and won't even comfort her suffering friend.
Which she would never do.
In fact, she doesn't even want to let Storm or anyone else near him out of some kind of fear, apparently forgetting that she could easily phase herself, and even did a thing earlier in the series where she's like, Wolverine, I trust you, so I'm not even going to be phased right now. And she could phase Wolverine for that matter. Has there been some kind of editorial mandate to disintegrate their relationship in the least believable ways possible?
Well, I mean, at least in Battle of the Atom, I got it, dude. She was trying to, like, hey, man, you guys are being retards here. I mean, you're not even seeing things right. You're just believing these guys out of the future out of nowhere, and you'd rather believe them than me and Rachel. I understood her plight in that. This was just ridiculous. Like, Kitty is going to, like, get pissy at Wolverine for seeing him do something that she's seen him do, like, her entire fucking life with this guy, you know?
Yeah, man, just complete bullshit. So Wolverine breaks the stupid sword. The Watcher shows up for no reason, other than probably since they're going to do a event where they kill the Watcher soon, they probably want to shoehorn him into as many books as possible.
I think he wanted a picture of it for his Facebook. He's like, look at Wolverine's being a bitch breaking a sword. Galactus is never going to believe I got a shot of this.
But yeah, obviously genius writer Paul Cornell believes that something so epic just happened that the Watcher would actually show up.
Watcher showed up for the first time Wolverine beat it, too. So it was so impactful. I mean, he was thinking of really sexy stuff.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. And then Wolverine announces that the Wolverine is dead. And with that, this crappy arc ends, taking the series down with it, only for Wolverine to be restarted with a new #1 issue with the same writer next month.
Yeah, he's, like I said, Dan Slott. He's probably never going to leave Wolverine either. He's just going to keep writing it and keep writing it and keep writing it. And, like, people are going to be writing him death letters and stuff like they do Slott, and Cornell's going to be like, no, I'm a genius. I'm going to kill him and have his mother possess his body, and it's going to be amazing. And you're going to have to read that because you're a Wolverine fan. And you're going to make me read it because we do this damn show together.
Oh, man. What did Metallica say? Sad but true.
Right?
God damn it. So thumbs up or thumbs down and buy it or skip it.
Thumbs down. Thumbs way down. I thought I felt bad for Wolverine fans when I read Origins 2. I feel so much worse for them now, dude. This was probably one of the worst things I've ever read. It's right there with that 10-page thing where Spider-Man and Psylocke from A+X. But, I mean, this was stretched out. And skip it. Don't even get the trade. I mean, don't even look at the trade for this. Just boycott it. If you like Wolverine, if you're a fan of his, and you think that they could be doing awesome things with the character right now, do not even think about getting this. Dude, just erase this title from your memory.
Yeah, man. Seriously, killable is fucking fecal matter. So I'm going thumbs down. Compare this forced, melodramatic garbage to something like the heartbreaking yet heroic Wolverine number 75, which also had Wolverine lose one of his defining traits and walk away a broken man, and you'll quickly understand why I'm recommending you skip this issue. I mean, seriously, man, like, that issue had everything. You had Wolverine lose his adamantium, be savagely tormented, be on the brink of death. He comes back to save Jean Grey. He has that teary-eyed scene with Xavier where Xavier's like, no, Wolverine, you're heading towards the light. That's death. And in, like, epic Wolverine fashion, he's kind of like half serious, half sarcastic. He's just like, oh, Chuck, don't you think I know that? And then, like, he's got that, that nice little scene with Jubilee in the end where he actually has a relationship with a friend. He writes that heart-wrenching goodbye letter to her that narrates the end of the issue. That issue had iconic Wolverine moments that you'll remember for the rest of your life, and maybe I'll post them up on the Facebook. And this issue had
shit you want to forget. I mean, it's shit that you'll, like, drink like an alcoholic to try to forget out of your mind. You know what I mean? This is utterly bad. Honestly, like, Wolverine, I don't think has had a solo arc this bad that I've read personally. So you've read more of him than I do. I'm not really a big fan of his solo stuff. So, but as far as I've read a bit, and like this is the worst I've read.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know how much I strive for fair and balanced. But, I mean, I don't think I've done anywhere near as much ranting since we started the show as I have.
No, you've actually tried to like this series in every fashionable way, and like we've split some hairs. We've had a little fun with issue here and here or there of this Passions of the Wolverine arc, but the consensus view since we started this show is that it's been bad. We've just been making excuses of like, it'll get better, it has to, as Wolverine. And we were way wrong, so about that, fans.
Yeah, apologies. Now, I promised this episode was going to be the good, the bad, and the Wolverine. And the Wolverine pretty much splits it, because the next book up is Savage Wolverine, number 14, Point Now. What a perfect idea for a Wolverine story this was. We're in the 1930s, during a time I consider to be one of the coolest in his lifespan, when he was running wild, a journeyman, adventurer, soldier of fortune, just making a buck, doing rough and tumble stuff, as a hard-drinking, lady-loving man's man. So you've got him here working as a part of a bootlegging operation, and in classic Wolverine style doing death-defying stunts just to get out of even the simplest of trouble, because he can. And of course you see, even as a bit of a small-time crook, like he's no thug, his boss is a family man, barely scraping by, lost his wife, sick kid, the whole nine.
That old-timey, kind of warm, but even though it's a hard story to tell, the kind of Steinbeck feel to it that, like they're hard men, but they're not bad men. They're just doing what they got to because it's a bad time.
As soon as they're established as friends, though, you know that this guy is not long for this world.
Right. I mean, it had a very Steinbeck feel right from the get-go. So you knew that this was going to be plagued with, like, some kind of sadness. It takes place right in the heart of the Depression. They're talking about, like, people not being able to afford stuff at the nickel and dime, but always having money for the boozers. So it was going to be a bit of a gut-wrencher somewhere along the line.
Yeah, man. So a rival operation takes him out, old-fashioned Gatling gun style. The bastards even kidnap his healthy daughter, taking her away to what will surely be a life of prostitution and sexual servitude. The best part about being friends with Wolverine, though, is he'll always avenge you, and watch out for your next of kin, too. Honestly, it's pretty much a color-by-numbers Wolverine tale. Establish him as a badass, give him a reason to want somebody dead, and then set him loose and see where the story takes him. I mean, does that make it any less satisfying?
No, not at all. And this is what our Origins 2 should have been. I mean, even the art in this was better. I loved the whole gruesome Norman Rockwell style. Like, after he's got hit by the grenade, they bring him in and they're, like, trying to tell him that they wish that they could help him better, and he's got, like, half of his fucking mouth missing, and you just see his jaw hanging there and stuff. But, I mean, it looks like a Norman Rockwell painting, though, and just, like, I loved it. And I have to say that, sure, this is base Wolverine, but I like the way that it was written in the time. He went out of his way to use terminology that people used in the time period, and I really love the way that he wrote the Mounties at the very beginning of the issue. That had me rolling.
So does it get a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and a buy it or a skip it?
Thumbs up, thumbs way up. This is what I want to read when I pick up a Wolverine book. I mean, no, I don't need it to take place in depression every time. I don't need a bootlegger story, but I want something that's at least this good, that somebody put this much effort into, like, actually making an enjoyable read out of. And I'm going to say buy it, because this is what Wolverine needs right now. He doesn't need to get his powers ripped away and get an ugly padded suit and stuff. This is Wolverine. This is the only Wolverine book that's being pressed right now.
Damn straight, man. It gets a thumbs up from me. Visually, some panels are better than others, but the tone fits the period perfectly, easily making this worth flipping through more than once. Wolverine's battle damage is especially well done, and ends up being one of the most interesting healing sequences I've read in a while. I'd recommend buying it. It's not blazing any new frontiers, but like last issue, it's another classic kind of Wolverine tale, and sadly, they just don't tell them like they used to. Except here. Also like last issue, I find this format a much better way to delve into Wolverine's past than trying to scientifically catalog, categorize, and chronologize his whole life from birth to now, like they're doing in the pages of Origins. Alright, on to the previews. I'm going to call it right now. Next week is going to fucking kick ass. I'll tell you right off the bat why, or Johnny Alpha, do you want to guess why?
I know why, man. We have all new X-Men. We have Uncanny X-Men. We have the fucking funeral of Wolverine Max to look forward to. The only thing that I see that's going to be sad that we're going to have to get through is Amazing X-Men number 3. That's the only point of contention I have next week. Everything else is disco days.
Fuck yeah, man. I cannot wait till next week. Just fuck yeah, man. All new X-Men number 21. Starting off with that. God Loves Man Kills artist Brent Anderson is back for a special flashback scene.
Damn. Hell, yeah.
That's reason enough right there, man.
Right? That's like the best X-Men book ever written. Like, there's that, and then there's Messiah Complex. If you don't have those, you're not an X-Men fan, in my opinion.
The Purifiers have the X-Men all strung up, but why? Is there more to it than typical comic book villains working out a ridiculously slow and easily escapable death instead of just shooting them in the head? We shall see. And in the pages of Uncanny X-Men number 16, this will be the Magneto-focused issue that the fucked up solicits have been trying to promise us for quite a while now. There's going to be a call back to the pro-mutant rally that the X-Men tried to support and got attacked at. And as we get into Magneto's head, we see that even to be supported by humans turns him against them. Like, he sees it as an insult, that they would see themselves as in any way on his level.
He's so awesome.
It's been a while since they focused on that. But remember, he hates all that we are on Earth. He hates all that kumbaya bullshit. In his mind, there's only one group of people who deserve the Earth at all. I look at it this way. Remember, one of the only reasons Magneto has been on the X-Men for so long is that with mutant kind on the brink of extinction, with so few numbers after M-Day and Decimation, they were fighting for survival and survival only. They were huddled and on the defensive. Now that their kind is growing again, there's room for Magneto to push more of an agenda and go on the offensive, which is probably why he will also have a new series very soon.
Right. By Colin Bunn. God, that's gonna rock.
Yeah, man, can't fucking wait. I can't even wait just to preview that, let alone to actually review it, man. Also, we're gonna have Amazing X-Men number 3. Honestly, man, as dumb as the series is, they sure make it look good.
Yeah, dude, honestly, I can't hate on the art, man. Dude really he's classic. He's got that, what you kind of expect X-Men to look like from when we're kids. It's just, he's really picked a bad writer to back, you know what I mean? Like, I feel bad for McGinnis.
I mean, especially for the X-Men right now. I mean, I'm flipping through the preview pages, and the visual art gives so much atmosphere to this evil, supernatural pirate ship, as the bad guys decide what horrors to visit upon their captive Storm. I'm already groaning at these stupid jokes about mutant nipples and broken nodes, or whatever this guy's bumbling about. But Nightcrawler trying to claim the ship in the name of the X-Men is pretty adventurous. I could almost be looking forward to it.
I'm groaning about the pirate ship, dude. X-Men fighting fucking spiritual pirates. Oh, God, it's... I'm going to wait and just rant when we do the review next week.
Luckily, we also have Uncanny X-Force number 16, which should pick up right where Cable and X-Force number 18 left off. I love both these teams, and this last arc should be a great ride.
Right. And I mean, yeah, if we get to see a little bit of duking out between, like, Psylocke and Domino, I'm all for that. That sounds awesome.
We're also going to get Wolverine Max number 15. I almost don't want to preview this, because it says that this is the last issue, and I get a little superstitious sometimes. I don't want to jinx it, you know?
We're going to give it a nice send-off, you know? Fuck off and die, you shit title.
I'm not going to lie, I'm almost looking forward to it after reading Wolverine number 13, but
We've been going on, I've been so hard on Wolverine Max, and then, yeah, Passions of the Wolverine just ended so bad that, like, I don't even think that I can hate on Wolverine Max as bad as... No, I will be able to. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, we are still absolutely going to have our fun with it, but it's pretty sad for Paul Cornell when I'm almost willing to say that I'm somewhat looking forward to an issue of Wolverine Max.
Over his shit, yeah.
Even if
Dan
it's
Slott Jr., motherfucker.
Okay, so we're also going to get X-Men Legacy number 22. Legion's all powered up. He's going into battle. But what role will Blindfold play?
Dude, like, that's the thing. This book is really playing up the power between the two of them. And the thing that Legion, he has all these voices in his head, but he can't do things alone. He needs somebody, and Blindfold's going to be that. You know what I mean? And I hope they don't kill her off, but I really hope that he gets the girl, and they kind of become this kind of crazy team together, because it's worked so well before in other X books. And, you know, Legion needs a shot. Legion needs to actually finally get out from being in a coma all the time and become something cool. They've been tickling our nipples with this character for decades. Spurrier's actually pulled him out and started using him, and he's got him to be probably one of my favorite X-Men right now. So, I mean, like, I really hope that they don't just nosedive this at the end, which I don't think he will, but like you said, it pays to be superstitious.
Editorially, what does Marvel have planned for the character Legion?
Yeah,
I don't
that's what
know.
I'm worried about, actually, more than Spurrier's writing is what they want to do.
And if you want to have a little more fun, there's also going to be Deadpool Gauntlet and Night of the Living Deadpool. The solicits are promising a black and white and red digital zombie story by Colin Bunn, and the current writers on the Deadpool series are doing some Deadpool/vampire stuff on Marvel's AR augmented reality app. Don't let the fancy naming fool you too much. Augmented reality is basically just their word for digital comics.
And I get when you're reading a Marvel, they also, if you buy a regular comic, like, it'll have extended scenes, like, when you're flipping through, like, the certain panels will have the AR, you can go on and you can put your number in, and then you can see what the extras are for that issue. It's kind of a cool thing that they got going with that. It's like almost like you have a DVD extras to a comic book.
That's a pretty cool description of it. And now we're moving into end of show segments. First up is Spike the Punch.
Oh yeah!
Spiking the Punch is a segment where we each recommend one non-X-Men related comic because, well, I'm sure you get the joke. Johnny, what do you got for me this week?
Haha, I got a surprise for you. I'm not doing an Image book this week. I have a Marvel title, and I'm going with the brand new Black Widow #1. And this I found very interesting. It leans very heavily on the old trope of the assassin trying to make amends for her wrongdoings in the past. And I also like that it's a first issue that's a self-contained story that really just explains this one hit that she goes on. It's actually a reverse hit, and she's actually saving the guy's life. And Phil Noto's art in it was just gorgeous. It really sold the book itself. No, I just had a lot of fun with it. I always loved Natasha. She's a great character, and she never really gets a fair ride on her solo titles, and I really hope this book takes off because I think it's off to a great start already.
Black Widow #1 is a hell of a choice, man. I mean, I generally don't like to put too much focus on this because I think in some ways it exacerbates the problem. But there is kind of an issue going on within the comic book industry, the video game industry, and kind of generally in entertainment. There's kind of a bit of a gender war thing going on. I think it kind of becomes a bit of a big thing. I mean, like, being so much, like, a part of the entertainment journalism industry, like, I see this shit just come across my desk all the time. But I've got to tell you, man, just between, like, my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed, I saw so many pictures of, like, female, comic fans really heartily celebrating the introduction of a new Black Widow series.
As well they should. I mean, I don't get it. I love female heroes. That's why I'm such an X-Men fan. There's just so many just badass chicks that I don't have to worry about, like, the dudes jump around in tight pants, because there's actually more girls in the titles than that. And I mean, like, I don't know if that makes me weird or something, but I like female superheroes, or just female heroes in general. And Black Widow's been one of my favorites because she's one of the ones I grew up with. She was always kind of popping in and out of the Avengers when I was a kid, and she was running around with Captain America or Daredevil and some of the other books that I read, so she was always present, but she never really got her own thing. And like, she kind of had like an 8-issue book a couple years ago, which was off to a great start before they put Dwayne Scissorensky on it. I'm not going to get into that, but I really liked the way this book's starting. I really liked Phil Noto's art, like I said, and I really hope that they kind of keep this with the standalone issues. I really like that format that Marvel's getting back into. It's like, I like the graphic novel thing. It's awesome. But when every book, you know, you had to read like a year or half a year worth of issues just to get the story, it got a little annoying eventually. You know what I mean? When every title was doing that.
Yeah, then you've got a really relevant choice here for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously the movies come into play a little bit. The movies have made a lot more buzz around the character of the Black Widow. There's no doubt about that. There's also the gender issue. There's also just being a new #1. I mean, that's always cool. I love your point, though, about the self-sustaining, self-fulfilling issues. You know, because so often you read a new #1, and, I mean, what's the cliche among comic book reviewing? It's a setup issue.
Right, yeah. You get like a bit of background information, just a touch, and then, yeah, you just get a cliffhanger. Read 4 more issues to find out where this is actually going. Like, that's how, like, all of the New 52 books launched, and that's why I thought New 52 was off to a bad start from the get-go.
Yeah, man, so right here you've got like a self-contained read in one single issue, which is always a great fucking thing. Especially rare among a #1. That's one of the reasons I love it. Maybe being a Wolverine fan has a little bit of something to do with it, too. Why I love it so much. You've got Black Widow as kind of this atoning for her sins kind of character, which is just something I'm very used to reading and I very much enjoyed reading. And I hope this doesn't sound too gross, but I like that she kills people.
Yeah. It's Russian. They got a different value of life than we do, you know? Even their superheroes should be that way, you know what I mean? They shouldn't be, like, you know, all remorseful and stuff, because it's a cultural thing. We can't expect, like, their people to be written like ours, you know? That's kind of rude.
And they do go out of their way to show that Black Widow only takes assassination jobs that involve assassinating bad people. But still, she kills someone in the first issue. Like, they don't shy away from that at all. Like, they're not trying to superhero her up and, like, you know, cleanse it and make it all PC and friendly.
This is our second time this episode where we have a gorgeous woman in tight clothes shoot a rocket at a man. And she straight up, yeah, when she finds out where the sniper is, man, she doesn't, I'm going to shoot you back, dog. She fucking nukes his ass with a damn stinger. Just,
yeah, man, I definitely appreciate that as well. But if I haven't made enough of a point already in this segment, I think Black Widow #1 is just a really special comic. So I'm really, really glad that you spiked with it, because it's one that I'm very glad that I read, and I think it's one that we all should read.
Well, it's one that I've actually been looking out for since they announced it was coming out. This was kind of a slow week for Image and Vertigo, so I was actually able to spike with it.
That's a good point. It was a bit of a tough week. I mean, you know, we're coming off of the holiday hiatus where, you know, a lot of publishers did not have a lot of books coming out. And still this week, there were not a lot of books coming out, you know, compared to usual. So it was a little bit harder to find a spike the punch this week. Me, I went with Protocol Orphans #3 from Boom Studios. Protocol Orphans is the brainchild of Peter Facinelli and Rob DeFranco. Facinelli, of course, is well known as Dr. Carlisle Cullen in the movie adaptations of the Twilight Saga, and DeFranco produced a number of college humor originals, as well as a movie they both worked on called Lucy's. The basic setup involves one I'm sure you've seen before in spy fiction: governments and organizations training orphans from birth to be top-flight agents and assassins. This one is far more action-oriented and more modernized, compared to, say, something dripping in noir. They don't lay it on as thick as some of those. Their thing here is, of course, all about being the best of the best. But they don't go overboard in explaining it. There's a lot more show than tell. I always make fun of that cliche, our spies are the ones other spies tell rumors about. Chuck Norris has nightmares about our spies, like, you know, and all that. So I like how you see their literal evolution here. And I mean literal evolution. Like, the parents and grandparents of these orphans, which is like the nicknames for their handlers, if you will, in this twisted family metaphor, demand results. And they get them because only the orphans who can deliver live on to advance. Like most spy fiction, it's filled with intrigue and betrayal upon betrayal upon betrayal, even within its own organization. And issue 3 is where that finally starts popping out. It's a 4-part mini that I've really enjoyed so far, especially for the team of orphans and seeing how their various loyalties play out. And the best part about recommending this issue is that if it gets you excited for the next issue like it did for me, you still got the 2 previous issues to go back and read before it ends.
Right, and I mean, this was just such an in-your-face book from the get-go. I gotta say, great spiking. I mean, I know it's a non-traditional family, but it kind of reminds me of a couple books I used to read, Dynamo 5 and Noble Causes, which were like these kind of family-based superhero stories, but this was more like if La Femme Nikita, Lupasan, was to tackle that kind of subject. You stumbled on it, said that there was like tropes like the film Nikita and several other things, but I don't know, there's enough going on here that it's not a copycat, and it's its own kind of fun take on that kind of subject. And Boom is on top of things when it comes to kind of crazy, zany, like action-adventure kind of stories. I mean, Two Guns and then this, I mean, like, yeah, just good shit.
Yeah, man, issue number 3 right here is really the most exciting time in the publication of another really cool offering from the always interesting Boom Studios.
I mean, I remember when I read the first one and I kind of referred it to you, and yeah, dude, like I just really liked the art style, and I had no idea that anybody that had anything to do with Twilight had to do with this comic. I'm kind of sorry I referred it to you now, but it seems like it paid out in the long run. You know, a lot of these Twilight guys, they seem to like not actually be that into it, because like Robert Pattinson says that he regrets doing it, and like he's actually proved to me in the movie Cosmopolis by David Cronenberg that he can actually act. So I mean, who knows? This guy, he's part of Twilight. He can actually write a comic book. So I mean, like, there is life for people after Twilight, and I'm happy to see that.
The guy who came up with the idea, or at least one of the guys at least, I mean, he was an actor in the movie. It's not like he wrote the damn thing. What the Twilight connection has to do with anything? Like, okay, so this series is the brainchild of this actor and this producer. But, I mean, they're not the ones who are writing it from issue to issue. And I'll bet you the writer on this series is probably kind of pissed that, Dr. Carlisle gets all the attention. And no one mentions this dude's name.
Yeah, he was probably like Fred Savage's best friend from Wonder Years in real life, and he's like, I'm famous too, goddammit! Why'd you say my name?
Okay, so this week we're adding a segment called I Pity the Fool.
I pity the fool!
I Pity the Fool is sponsored by PSN-radio.com.
PSN Radio, the best in talk radio anywhere.
Do you want to lead us off, Johnny?
Yeah, I got it. I Pity the Fool. Mine goes to Uncanny X-Force. This goes back to what we were talking about last week with the previews. And I pity the fool that is named Lucas Bishop, because no matter what, they write him as the biggest retard with mutant powers. You want my mind? Why? I'm just going to go out and pout about it. It was my memories to be mad about and shit. He's like fucking Mr. T with no brain, and I pity that fool.
I pity the fool.
For me, I pity the fool who thinks that Wolverine number 13 was deep, or meaningful, or a good Wolverine story, or just good in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Are there actually people saying that? I mean, like, you kind of keep up with the boards more than I do. Are there actually people that are like, man, that was so amazing? Did you see what Wolverine did? He said no. He said no, man. It was beautiful.
Full disclosure, yes, there are people who inspired this entire segment. I mean, I try not to call out other people by name within the industry. I try to remain professional as much as possible, which is why I'm not going to read any direct specific quotes from any reviews I may have read that kind of led me to feel this way. But there are some very positive reviews of this issue out there, and it really just boggles my fucking mind that anyone got anything out of this issue whatsoever. I can't identify in any way with the people who would say those things.
Well, they're writing for like people that are just getting into Wolverine or something. I mean, like, I don't see how. But whatever. Yeah. Enough said. There are idiots out there, I guess. It's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, there are people out there who like legit enjoyed this story. And I mean, so much of art and entertainment is very subjective. I mean, even like facts are sometimes hard to discern. Like, people have different interpretations of what even just happened within an issue. But I 100% seriously, legit pity the fool who got anything out of that issue whatsoever. And tonight we're ending with a segment called Too Cool for School. Too Cool for School is sponsored by comicbooked.com.
Man, this is Kevin Smith, and you've been comic booked.
Johnny Alpha, who was too cool for school in comic books this week?
You think you're too cool for school?
This is also from Uncanny X-Force, and it is Psylocke. Where she's just standing there all badass telling Cable that, dude, who you coming trying to say that we're supposed to explain shit to you? We don't have to tell you shit, you robot-armed bastard. She's just all badass, ready to kick some ass. Psylocke is too cool for school.
And mine comes from Deadpool number 22. Personally, I've never been the biggest fan of Agent Coulson. I don't understand the fascination. He just doesn't do it for me. But when he flies in his red convertible, 2 hands, 2 guns, bullets each side, rat-tat-tat-tat-tat, guns a-blazing, saving the day, saying, be in the car by the time I have to reload, dude was just too fly, man. That was too cool for school. So, www.facebook.com/allaboutxmen comics podcast is where we hang out the most on the web, both as the page and with our personal accounts. If you want to chill a bit before the next episode, join us there. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, or whenever you decide to play the show.